So today I only want us to check some few details concerning the exchange rates. We shall only be interested with the exchange rates. So if you can check through your handout or about the financial derivatives, if you can check through the handout for the financial derivatives, that is where we have more information concerning the exchange rates. So it should be, we should check on page, we should be able to check right away from page, I want us to check briefly from page 8. You check from page 8 in that handout of the financial derivatives. If you check from page 8, there is the information there about number 1, balance methods of hedging the exchange rate. Methods of hedging the exchange. It is at the back of your notes on page 7. Page 7 is the last one, then page 8. So when you look at that page, they have given you information concerning balance of payment, about the balance of payment as one of the method of determining the exchange rate. That they gave you the purchasing power parity. They also gave you the interest rate parity theory, then also international Fisher effect. So they normally ask you questions on that item. They always ask you to write some questions on that item. If you can go to your past papers, if you can check through your past papers. So this should be in the sitting of November 2020. November 2020, question number 4, part A. November 2020, question number 4, part A. If you check November 2020, question number 4, part A. November 2020, question 4, part A. So they were asking you to explain the following terms as used in the context of the international parity conditions. Number 1 is meant to be the interest rate parity. Number 2, purchasing power parity. Number 3 is the international Fisher effect. So there is a way we can simplify it. There is a way you can simplify it on how we can explain them in terms of computing the forward exchange rate. So when you are using the interest rate parity theory, when we want to get the forward rate, we normally take into account the interest rate, where we factor in on the spot rate so that we come up with the forward rate. So it is one of the techniques we should be able to apply. So let me simplify something brief about them. So we start with number 1 as interest rate parity. We start with number 1 as interest rate parity. Interest rate parity theory. Interest rate parity theory. We can write something brief about the interest rate parity theory. So we can say that it is a method. It is a method or a model. It is a method or a model of determining the forward exchange rate. Of determining the forward exchange rate. Determining the forward exchange rate by taking into consideration the interest rate, by taking into consideration the interest rate between two countries, by taking into consideration the interest rate between two countries, by taking into consideration the interest rate between two countries, by taking into consideration the interest rate between two countries. So if you want to get the forward rate, if you want to compute the forward rate, when you want to get the forward rate, you simply take the spot rate. You simply take the spot rate. You simply take the spot rate. Then in brackets, we shall simply be able to come up with the spot rate. Then when it comes to explaining it, we should just be able to see how we can be able to apply it. So once you take the spot rate multiplied by 1 plus the interest rate of the home country, divide by 1 plus the interest rate of the foreign country. Like that. So when we are using the interest rate parity theory to get the forward rate, this is the forward rate, will be equal to the spot rate in the brackets of 1 plus interest rate at home country divided by 1 plus the interest rate of the foreign country. So that's now the model about the interest rate parity theory. So it is simply a model we use to determine the forward rate by taking into consideration the interest rate between the two countries. So we use it for the exchange rate. We normally use it to determine the forward exchange rate. So to get the forward rate, simply take the spot rate, then in brackets, 1 plus, this is the interest rate at home country, divided by 1 plus interest rate of the foreign country. So we express it in that manner so that we can be able now to come up with the forward rate. So that model simply takes into account interest rate when determining the forward rate. So I've simplified, but you still go through your notes and read about it because we have noted about the interest rate parity theory. So interest can be used as a tool of determining management in the monetary policy. Hence, interest rate in different countries will vary depending on economic conditions. So I've explained that, but I've simplified it in these notes. Check in what we have just written. That's the simple way we can be able to show it. We have simplified in a simple way. When you want to get the forward rate, simply take the spot rate, then multiplied by 1 plus interest rate at home, we divide by 1 plus the interest rate in the foreign country. That should be able to give you the forward rate. So that is a simple way you can express it. So let us get the other one. The other one is this.
Yes, spot rate. We should get that's what is which kind of rate
spot rate ni ya leo. Size at the spot.
So we use the word currently for our country.
No, tunatumia the terms for international market.
Yeah. Which is common to.
It is common everywhere. The spot rate is the rate that is exchanged at the current prevailing market rate. Yeah, so that's what is the spot rate in that question. So the spot rate is the interest rate or the exchange rate at the moment. So that's now for the interest rate parity theory. Let us now go to the purchasing power parity theory. We now check the purchasing power parity theory. So what do we mean by the purchasing power parity theory? So it is also a model of determining, so we can write that it is a model of determining, the forward exchange rate, by taking into consideration the inflation rate, by taking into consideration the inflation rate the inflation rate between two countries by taking into consideration the inflation rate between two countries by taking into consideration inflation rate between the two countries. So me, I'm simplifying it so that it becomes easier in terms of explanation. So now to compute the forward rate. The forward rate will be given again by the spot rate. The spot rate in the brackets of 1 plus inflation rate at home, divided by 1 plus inflation rate in the foreign country. So when you want to compute the forward rate, simply take the spot rate, then in the brackets of 1 plus inflation rate at home, divided by 1 plus inflation rate in the foreign country. Inflation rate in the foreign country. Inflation rate in the foreign country. That's now what we mean by that item of the purchasing power parity theory. The purchasing power parity theory. The last one on that question, Roman letter 3, international Fisher effect. The international Fisher effect. The international Fisher effect. We can now also look at the international Fisher effect. The international Fisher effect. The international Fisher effect. So when it comes to the international Fisher effect, we shall be considering all of them to see how we can be able to see. So for that, we also summarize that it is a model. It is a model that is used to determine the forward exchange rate. The forward exchange rate by taking into consideration the real rate of return, comma, the nominal rate, and the interest rate. The nominal rate and the interest rate. The nominal rate and the interest rate. So that's now what we mean by the Fisher's effect. It takes into consideration the nominal rate, the real rate, and the inflation rate when determining the forward rate. So I don't want us to go into details. I just want you to understand those terms in that manner. When they mention about interest rate parity theory, we use interest rate in determining the forward exchange rate. When they mention purchasing power parity theory, they use inflation rate. But now when it comes to the Fisher effect, there are three of them: the nominal rate, the real rate, and the inflation rate. Those terms are enough for someone to know to have the concept in relation to each one of them. So interest parity theory, you only talk about interest and the spot rate and the forward rate. So we use it to determine the forward rate by taking into consideration the interest in both countries. But purchasing power parity theory, we only determine the forward rate by taking into consideration inflation for both countries. When it comes to the Fisher effect, there are three items there: nominal rate, the real rate, and inflation. That explanation is sufficient for someone to be able to give you those particular marks. So that's now the simple way on how you can be able to get those values. That's now a simple way on how we can be able to explain that. So I want us to go to that handout. Still on the handout, they have given you methods of hedging the forex risk. They have given you methods of hedging the forex risk. It is there on page 7. It is there on page 7, where they have given you methods of hedging the forex risk. Methods of hedging the forex risk. They normally ask you to explain methods of hedging the foreign exchange risk. So one of them, you can see they say use of the forward contract. They have mentioned about use of the forward contract. So when they come and it comes to the use of the forward contract, they are saying that in this case, the company will enter into a legally binding contract to buy or sell specified quantity of the currency at a specified exchange rate at a future date. Then I've also mentioned about the advantages and disadvantages. Then being is use of the future contract. We also use the future contract to determine the forward rate. Then there is also the money market hedge. So those terms, I want us to understand them clearly by looking at that example. You see the example I've given you as number 1. So let us go through that example indicated in that handout as number 1. Let us go through that example indicated there as number 1. So that example, they are saying that suppose a Kenyan company has exported goods to Tanzania and invoiced the Tanzanian customer, Tanzanian shillings, 900 million on a 3-month credit. Other relevant data is shown below. They gave you the spot rate, Tanzanian against the Kenyan shillings. There is 15.58, 15.62. 3-month forward rate is also given. Money market interest rate is also given for the deposit and also for the loan. So now required, evaluate the forward market and the money market hedge and recommend the best option So today, if you go to the bank right now, you will find them, they have given you a dashboard whereby there is the buying rate and the selling rate. So we need to know how do they normally come up with that buying rate and selling rate, because now it is the exchange rate in relation to the currencies. So for us to understand that, I want us to check some clear information on how to distinguish which one is the selling price, which one is the buying price when you go through that portion. So to know that, we have some quotation we normally make. There is some quotations we normally make. One of the quotes we normally talk about indirect. Indirect quote. We can make it as indirect quote. We have the indirect quote. So when we mention about indirect quote, normally I will first explain, then I will let you write something brief on that. Normally, when we hold the domestic currency constant as 1, then variation is done in the foreign currency. Variation is done in the foreign currency. That's what we mean by indirect quote. Like now, we are normally given 2 prices. Those 2 prices are for the same country. Those 2 prices, they give you the buying and they say it is for the same country. But now they have held the currency for the other country constant as 1. So like now in that small question I've given you, you see there is the spot rate. In that spot rate, there is 15.58. There is also 15.62. Those 2 prices are for Tanzanian currency because Kenyan currency is stronger than the Tanzanian currency. That means 1 Kenyan shilling will either be exchanged at 15.58 or 15.62. One of them is the buying rate, the other one must be the selling rate. So in this quote, the Kenyan currency has been held constant as 1. So variation is being done in the foreign currency. When that is the case, we normally refer to it as indirect quote. The domestic currency, you make it 1. Now, selling and buying, you vary it in the currency of the other country. That's now what you'll be able to see it as indirect quote. And normally, when it comes to the indirect quote, The bank normally buy at a higher rate, but it sell at a lower rate. Yeah, it is not common for you to buy at a higher rate and sell at a lower, but they are making a gain. They know why they are doing it in that manner. So the bank will be able to buy at a higher rate, but will be able to sell at a lower rate because of the denomination. So we shall be able to see it, how it works. So maybe we can write something about that in a direct quote. So we can say that it is where the domestic currency, it is where the domestic currency is held constant. It is where the domestic currency is held constant. It is where the domestic currency is held constant as one, is held constant as one. And variation is done in the foreign currency. And the variation is done in the foreign currency. And the variation is done in the foreign currency. And the variation is done in the foreign currency. Then we continue by noting that in the case of any direct quote, in the case of indirect quote, in the case of indirect quote, the bank will buy at a higher value. In the case of indirect quote, the bank will buy at a higher value and sell at a lower value. The bank will buy at a higher value and sell at a lower value. That's now what we mean by indirect quote. Indirect quote, the home currency is held constant as one. Then the buying and the selling price will come from variation of the foreign currency. Then let us also have the direct quote. We now also check something brief about the direct quote. We also write something brief about the direct quote. So now it is the reverse. So for the direct quote, we comment that in this case, the foreign currency is held constant. The foreign currency is held constant as one. The foreign currency is held constant as one. It is held constant as one. And variation is done in the domestic currency. And the variation is done in the domestic currency. And the variation is done in the domestic currency. Then we continue by noting that in the case of the direct quote, in the case of the direct quote, comma, the bank, in the case of the direct quote, comma, the bank will buy at a lower rate. The bank will buy at a lower rate and sell at a higher rate. It will buy at a lower rate and sell at a higher rate. So that is now how you will distinguish between the buying rate and the selling rate. And that element of holding it constant as one, it goes by the strength of the currency. It goes by the strength of the currency. Like now, the Kenyan shillings against the US dollar. So the US dollar will be held constant as one. Then the variation must be done in the Kenyan shillings because the Kenyan currency is so weak. So we come up with that. So determining which one should be held constant as one, it goes by the strength of the currency. We start with a stronger currency, then the variation will be done. So we go back to that question. Let us now go through that question in the handout where they have said that you evaluate between the forward market and the money market. They want you to evaluate between the forward market and the money market. So on that page 7, you have seen what is there under A, use of the forward contract. So when you are using the forward contract, they say that in this case, the company will enter into a legally binding contract to buy or sell specified quantity of the currency at a specified exchange rate at a future date. So in this question, the forward market, you can see the 3-month forward. Yeah, so we need now to know between 15.58 and the 15.88. Which one is the buying rate and which one is the selling rate? So for this question, it is indirect quote, because we know it is between the Kenyan shillings and Tanzanian shilling. And a Kenyan shilling is stronger than Tanzania, which means those figures that they have given you are for Tanzania against 1 Kenyan shilling. Those figures given are for Tanzania against 1 Kenyan shilling. So it is indirect quote because the Kenyan currency has been held constant. And we have said that in case of indirect quote, the bank will buy at a higher rate and it will sell at a lower rate. So that means that forward market, you see the 3 months forward, 15.58. The 15.58 will be the selling rate. And the 15.88 will be the buying rate because it is indirect quote. In case of indirect quote, the bank will buy at a higher rate and sell at a lower rate. That's now what we have explained. The reason why it is indirect because Kenyan shillings against Tanzanian shillings, we know the Kenyan shilling is stronger. So it is the one which is held as 1 against those 2 figures, and one of them is the buying, the other one is for selling. So the buying rate will be, the buying rate in that case is a higher value. So what is that higher value in the forward market? It is 15.88. So the selling rate is 15.58. So get to know that the buying and the selling. So we want now to answer the question under the forward market. We want now to answer the question under the forward market. Under the forward market. Under the forward market. We want now to check under the forward market. So under the forward market, first we comment that since it is indirect quote, since it is indirect quote, comma, the bank will buy at a higher rate. The bank will buy at a higher rate and sell at a lower rate. It will buy at a higher rate and sell at a lower rate. And sell at a lower rate. Then we continue by writing that in this case, the Kenyan exporter is paid Tanzanian shillings, is paid Tanzanian shillings 900 millions, is paid Tanzanian shillings 900 millions. You see that figure? Yeah, 900 millions. So in Kenya, we don't use Tanzanian currency. It must be converted into. So he has been paid 900 millions. He's the one with the problem because he cannot be able to use. So he's going to sell to the bank. So you have this currency. So you are the one with the problem. You are going to sell to the bank. And therefore the bank will be buying. And therefore the bank will be. So we quote it from the bank perspective. We quote it from the bank perspective. You have been paid this money, but you cannot use it in Kenya. We require the Kenyan shillings. So because you have it, you will take it to the markets. You know when you go to the market, you are going to sell. So you want to dispose it. So you are going to sell, and therefore the bank will do what? Buy. So now it will buy at a higher rate. So we are saying that he will sell to the bank. We continue by writing that he will sell to the bank. He will sell to the bank, and therefore the bank will buy at a higher rate. And therefore the bank will buy at a higher rate. The bank will buy at a higher rate. So this is now the amount that you will be given. So 1 Kenyan shilling will be equivalent to, that's the 3-month forward. The 3-month forward, it is 15.88 Tanzanian shillings. So 1 Kenyan shilling will be equal to 15.88 Tanzanian shillings. But you have seen he was paid how much Tanzanian shillings? Now, write it in full, write that figure in full, 900 million Tanzanian shillings. So when he is now given that, we cross multiply to get how much he will get in the forward market. We cross multiply to get how much you will receive in the forward market. So you simply take the 900 millions multiplied by 1, then you divide by 15.88. So get that amount that he will now be paid. Now get that particular amount that he will now be paid. So that is now in the forward market. You simply go to the forward market, identify the rate to be used. Then now we come up with the value. So that is for the forward market. Let us now check the one for the money market, because they want you to evaluate the forward and the money market. Let us now check the one for the money market. Let us now check the one for the money market. So you round it off. When you round off, you are getting how much? 56,600 and what? 75,063. So it should be 063. So that's now the amount you will receive in the forward market. So let us now check on the money market, because they wanted you to evaluate between the forward market and the money market. So when it comes to the money market, the concept is that this person is supposed to be paid after how long in that question? After 3 months. So don't simply wait someone to stay with your money for 3 months. What you do, so this one is meant to be today. So he's supposed to pay you after 3 months, the 900 million. So what you do in the money market, go to the country of your customer, and that is in Tanzania. Identify the bank of that customer. Then borrow from there and use the customer as security. Use the customer as security in that country, in that bank, because it's the one owing you. So you borrow money equivalent to, after 3 months, it acquired in a chargeable interest. It has increased to how much? 900. So you borrow less than this, so that they charge it. So when it matures, he pays the money in Tanzania because you borrowed on his name. So you borrow less than 900 million. When they charge you interest for the 3 months, it increases to how much? 900. So that now when it matures, you pay. But that money, you convert it now into Kenyan shillings. Then come to the Kenyan bank and deposit that money in the bank. It will earn interest in the Kenyan mints. So after 3 months, it will have gone to how much? Is it more than the 900 or less than the 900? That's now the money market. What you do, instead of you waiting for the 3 months to be paid the 900 million, go to Tanzania, the bank of your customer, because that money is substantial. It means he has an account in that country. So borrow money in his name. When it matures, he pays. That money is given to you. You convert it to the Kenyan shillings, convert it into the at the spot rate. Then you deposit in the Kenyan bank for 3 months. After 3 months, it will have accumulated to how much? So when you go through the handout, you see that C on page 7, money market H. They are saying that money market is a market where companies and individuals can lend or borrow as short as overnight period and as long as 12-month period. So the borrowing and the lending interest rate in the money market are always quoted as an annual interest rate. So the money market hedge uses matching principle. It uses the matching principle, i.e., for every short-term liability, that is amount payable, there should be a corresponding what? Asset, which must be created by depositing some money in the bank. So the money market hedge is normally compared with the forward market in order to determine the best option. So this person has a short-term current asset. See, he has been invoiced. He has sold goods to someone in Tanzania who is supposed to, so that person is his debtor. A debtor is a current asset. A debtor is a current asset. So he creates a corresponding liability by going to Tanzania to do what? To borrow. Yeah, so that's now the issue. So when they ask you to explain about the money market hedge, you just explain it in simple terms, the way we are expressing it. And you include the use as what? The matching principle. So we can simply simplify now what has happened in the money market. You want you to know what is happening in the money market. So because he has a current asset, the first step in the money market, he will borrow. Number one is borrow. We are borrowing simply because he had a current asset to receive. So he need to borrow. But if he had a current liability, we could have deposited. So you see this one? This one he has a current asset to receive 900 million. So the corresponding transaction is to borrow, to create a current what? Liability. So he will go to Tanzania and borrow. So you want to know how much is he going to borrow. The amount to be borrowed will be the present value. So to get the present value, simply take the future value, divide by 1 plus R. So the amount he's borrowing today is not 900 million. It will go to 900 million after 3 months, so that that person pays. So you borrow less than 900 million. Then they will be charging you interest to be matching to 900 million after 3 months. So we can now add there a paragraph. So to compute that, it will be the present value. We take the future value, then 1 divided by R. So we say that he will borrow amount in Tanzania. He will borrow amount in Tanzania at an interest rate. I want you to check in that question. What is the loan rate in Tanzania? It is 9%. Yeah, so at an interest rate of 9% per annum, at an interest rate of 9% per annum, 9% per annum. Therefore, it will be 3 over 12 multiplied by 9. 3 over 12 multiplied by 9. So for the 3 months, what will be that interest rate? Because 9% is per annum, but we are only borrowing it for how many months? 3 months. So how much will it be? What will be the percentage? 2.25. So 2.25. So we are now looking for the amount to be borrowed. So amount to be borrowed, which is now the present value, simply take the 900 millions, then divide by 1 plus 0.0225. That figure that you have just calculated. That now should give you the amount to be borrowed. That is now what will give you the amount to be borrowed. That is what will give you the amount to be borrowed. You are getting 880, 195, 599. That's now the first step in the money market. We borrow. So we got the step number 2. We now got the step number 2. So this one is step 1. Yes, but so step number 2 is that the amount will be converted at the spot rate. The amount will be converted at the spot rate into the Kenyan shillings. The amount will be converted at the spot rate into the Kenyan shillings. Into the Kenyan shillings. So we go back to the question. Are you able to see the spot rate? There is 15.58 and also 15.62. And we have said it is indirect quote. This question is about indirect quote. And we said in case of indirect quote, the bank will buy at a higher rate and it will do it, sell at a lower rate. So he has been given Tanzanian shillings, the one that you have calculated. So when he comes to Kenya with that money, he's going to sell to the bank, and therefore the bank will do it, will buy. So it will buy at a higher rate. To be able to buy at a higher rate. So check those spot rates. The higher rate is which figure? 15.62. So now we exchange them at that higher rate. We now exchange that money at the higher rate, whereby we say that 1 Kenyan shilling should be equal to 15.62. 15.62 Tanzanian shillings. So you have already calculated that figure. You have said it's 800 and what? 818. 818. Then 195. 599. Yeah, Tanzanian. So convert that money into the Kenyan shillings. Convert that money into the Kenyan shillings. So when you convert it into the Kenyan shillings, it will be 880, 195, 599 multiplied by 1. Then we divide by 15.6. So that's now the money converted into the Kenyan shillings. That's now what should be converted into the Kenyan shillings. So how much will he be able to get now? 56 millions, 350,000, 551. Yeah, so that's now the money. Now we got the step number 3. We now got the step number 3. So step 3 is that the amount is then deposited. Step number 3, the amount is then deposited in the Kenyan bank. The amount is then deposited in the Kenyan bank. It is deposited in the Kenyan bank. Earning interest at a rate of, so I want you to check in the question under the deposits. You see deposits in Kenya, it is what percent? Yeah, so earning interest, you can write earning interest at a rate of 5% per annum. Earning interest at a rate of 5% per annum. Therefore, for the 3 months, it will be, it will be 5 multiplied by 3 over 12. For 3 months, it will be 5 multiplied by 3 over 12, which is supposed to be which one? 1.25. So we are now looking for the future value. We want to get the future value. So future value will be the present value 1 plus R. So we are depositing that money in the bank for 3 months, earning us interest of 1.25%. So that money you said it was what? 56, 350, 551. Yes. Yeah, so now multiplied by 1 plus 0.0125. And see how much is that value. So, and see how much will now be that particular value. So it is 57.
54, 933.
So that's now the amount you will be able to get. So when the loan matures, the customer in Tanzania clears. So you borrowed less than 900,
Yes.
but after three months in Tanzania, that money will go to 900 million. So he will clear that money. But now you took the money, you came and invested in Kenya. So is there any benefit? So we compare now this money with the one in the forward market and see where he has received more. We compare that money with the one in the forward market and establish whether we take the money market or the forward market. So where is he receiving more? Yeah, so now the conclusion is that select the money market. Select the money market. Select the money market since it is where the investor will receive more. Since it is where the investor will receive more. Since it is where the investor will receive more. So I want us now to get a question in your past papers. December 2021, the one for the real exam, December 2021. So I want you to check December 2021. December 2021. The one for the exam, not the pilot paper. December 2021, there were two papers there. I want us to check the one for the real exam. So December 2021, question number 4, part C. December 2021, question number 4, part C. December 2021, I want you to check the question number 4, part C. December 2021, we check question number 4, part C. December 2021, we check through the question number 4, part C. So that question 4, part C for December 2021. They have given you information about Jarimu Limited, a United Kingdom based firm, bought goods on credit. So this time around is buying, it's not selling. But now he has done what? He has been able to buy the goods. So he was able to buy goods on credit worth 365,000 US dollars. So this person is in the UK, and the UK, we know they use pounds. But he must pay his customer in terms of what? The US dollars. He must pay his customer in terms of the US dollars. Then they have continued to say that amount is payable in 6 months time. It is payable in 6 months time from now. The company is considering various choices in order to hedge the transaction exposure. In order to hedge the transaction exposure. And hence, he has collected the following data. He has collected the following data. So in that data, you can see the exchange rate. The US dollars against the pound. The US dollars against the pound. So it is not very clear there, but that is obvious because it is between UK and US. So now those currencies are the pounds and the dollars. So exchange rates are given. The one for the spot rate, they have given you 1.3648 and 1.3722. Also the 6 month forward. The 6 month forward has also been given as 1.3515 against 1.3655. That's what they have given. Then annual money market rates are given as for so borrowing rate and also the deposit rate. So US dollars, so that 5, I think there's a mistake there. The sign for the US dollar, I think it is this way. So you should have done it that way instead of writing 5. That is the sign for the US dollar. For the pound is normally indicated like that. That one is correctly indicated. So you have those details. So the foreign currency option price in terms of cents per sterling pound for the contract size of 15,000 pounds are as follows. They gave you the exercise price and the 6 month call option and the 6 month put option. So required, determine the amount payable using the forward market cover. Roman letter 2 using the money market cover. Then finally the currency option. So we start with the one for the forward market. But first, now that they have given you 2 prices, you need first of all to know whether it is direct quote or indirect quote, so that you tell us which is the buying price and which one is the selling price. So the common question now comes up between the US dollar and the UK pound, normally, which is a stronger currency. The pound is strong. So there, it goes without saying anything. At our level, it must be common knowledge. So don't wait to be told that this one is US and this is the UK. What we know from our current exchange rates, the UK is stronger than the US dollars. So those figures they have given you are the US dollars against 1 UK pound. So those figures they have given you are what? The US dollars against 1 UK pound. Because the pound is stronger than the US dollar. So I hope now we get that point. Yeah, always look at it. Before even you check whether it's a buying rate or a selling rate, establish in a common way that between, let's say, the Canadian dollar and the US dollar, which one is stronger? Obviously, the US dollar is stronger. So start it from that point. So from this one, we must evaluate that the pound is stronger than the US dollar. So those figures they have given you are the US dollars against 1 pound. They will not tell you about that, but they give you 2 figures for you now to determine which one is the selling price. So this person is in the UK because he's the one who bought goods. He is in the UK and he's supposed to pay his customer in the US. So it means from his perspective, it is indirect quote because his domestic currency has been held constant as 1. Variation is being done in what? In the foreign currency. So this one is indirect quote. And in case of indirect quote, we have said that the bank will buy at a higher rate and he will sell at what? A lower rate. But now another challenge comes in. This person wants to pay his customer in the US in terms of US dollars. So him is in the UK. That means he has what? He has the pound. So he's going to sell the pounds. He's going to buy. He's going to buy the US dollars. Therefore, if he's going to buy, the bank will be doing what? Will be selling to him. So it will sell to him at what? A lower rate. So you get that point. Now, he's going to buy the US dollars because the customer is in the US. The customer is in the US. And he must pay that customer in terms of what? The US dollars, because the currency there is the US dollar. So what he do, he goes to the bank to buy what? The US dollars. Therefore, the bank will be selling to him at a lower rate. That's now also where the confusion will be able to come in. The transaction at hand is in terms of the US dollars. And this customer is in the US and he wants to repay the US dollars. And you have the pound. So you will go to US to buy that US dollar. And therefore, the bank will do it. Yeah, so it will be selling to you at a lower rate. So we are in the forward market. Are you able to see the 6 month forward? Yeah. The 6 month forward, the lower rate is what? 1.3515. That's now the exchange rate. So maybe we can write something brief about it before we do the question. So we comment that it is indirect quote. It is indirect quote. It is indirect quote. And therefore, the bank will buy at a higher rate. The bank will buy at a higher rate and sell at a lower rate, and sell at a lower rate, and sell at a lower rate. Then we connect by noting that in this case, the customer will buy the US dollars. The customer will buy the US dollars, and therefore the bank will sell. And therefore the bank would sell to him at a lower rate. And therefore the bank would sell to him at a lower rate. The bank would sell to him at a lower rate. So now we can get that exchange rate. We can now come up with that particular exchange rate. We should now come up with. So in that exchange rate, 1 pound will be equal to the 6 month forward. You see the 6 month forward rate? It is 1.3515 US dollars. That's now the exchange rate. That's now our exchange rate. But this person was supposed to pay how many US dollars? So he's supposed to pay 365 US dollars. So how much did he pay from his domestic currency? So we want to know how much pounds did he pay now from that portion? How much pounds did he pay? So that is now the forward market. The forward market is always easier. Once you identify the exchange rate, it is very direct at that point. It's normally really direct at that level. So that is now the forward market. That is now the forward market. Let us now check the money market. Let us now check the money market. Let us now check the money market. So money market, we have said we use the matching principle. For every current liability, we create a current asset. And for every current asset, we create a current liability. So this one is a current liability to pay. It is a current liability to pay. The other question, it was a current asset to receive. So this one is a current liability to pay. So when you pay, to create a current asset, you deposit. So the other one we borrowed. So this one now you do it. You deposit. So this one you need to deposit. So this one you deposit. So this one now you deposit. So the first step is now to deposit. The first step is now to deposit. So we want to get the present value to be deposited in the US so that after 6 months, it has gone to 300 and not. Yeah, so we get the present value. It will be equal to the future value, then 1 plus R. Like that. So this time you deposit, because it is a current liability, we create a current asset by depositing. So we want to deposit that money after 6 months. We have said it is which value? 365. 365. So confirm the deposit rate in the US. Confirm the deposit rate in the US. So 9% is per annum. But this is for how many months? 6 months. So 6/12 multiplied by 9. So that interest rate will be 6/12 multiplied by 9. So it will be what percent? So 4.5% is the same as 0.045. So get now to know how much is he depositing in the US bank so that after 3 months it grows to 365 in order to pay that customer in the US. In order to pay that customer in the US. In order to pay that customer in the US. So itakuwa pesa ngapi ata deposit? 349 282 like that. Yeah, so that money he must get it in the UK. So we got the step number 2. He convert that money at the spot rate to know how much did he come with in the UK to bring it in the US. So step number 2 is that convert the amount at the spot rate. Convert the amount at the spot rate into the UK dollars. So pound into the UK pounds. Convert the amount at the spot rate into the UK pounds. Into the UK pounds. Into the UK pounds. So we want to know the exchange rate at the spot rate. You see the exchange rate at the spot rate because it's the one the problem. We pick the lower ones there. The same way you have used the forward market. See, the forward market you used a lower value. So even this one you are still using a lower value. So 1 pound should be equal to the one at the spot rate, which is 1.31. 1.3648 US dollars. US dollars. But now we know this person has how much US dollars? 349,282 US dollars. So how much did he have in pounds to get those US dollars? So that's the money he had before now he went to the US. But that money, it is substantial. He should have borrowed now in the UK. Isn't it? Yeah. So in the UK, we want to know he borrowed how much in the UK. So we want to get the future value of that money after 6 months. After 6 months in the UK, that money after 6 months in the UK will be how much? So we use now a borrowing rate because he must have borrowed, isn't it? Yeah, in the UK. So what is the borrowing rate? So borrowing rate in the UK, it is 14%, isn't it?
Yeah.
But for 6 months, it will be what percent? 7%. So now step number 3 is that. Step number 3, we are this amount would have been borrowed in the UK. This amount would have been borrowed in the UK. Would have been borrowed in the UK. Therefore, the future value after 6 months would be, therefore, the future value after 6 months would be, the future value after 6 months would be, the future value after 6 months would be. So future value will be the present value 1 plus R. So we have already calculated that present value. So that present value was which figure? The one that you have just calculated. Sorry? 255, 922. So 1 plus. Your figure to nasema which percent? 7%. Yeah, 7% is the same as 0.07. So that's now what he will be required to pay in terms of the US, in terms of the UK pounds. What we have calculated there are pounds. What you have calculated there is the pounds. So the last part, now we go to Roman letter 3, the currency option. The currency option. Now check the currency option. The currency option. So I will first explain something brief in terms of the currency option. We shall just explain something brief in terms of the currency option. So we explain that, we shall be able to explain that. That is the currency option. Sorry? The lower value. We had already said it was in a direct quote. When it is in a direct quote, we say that the bank will buy at a higher rate. Yeah. So what you used in the forward must be a pattern. So you remember in the forward market, you used a lower value. Now when you also come to the money market, always use so that it matches. Yeah. The explanation is there, but the explanation may complicate. Yeah.
You just need to look at the position of the person. If the person is expecting to receive money, to be subjected to the higher spot or if it's the person expected to pay that we have the lower rates.
So the question there is normally, who is the subject matter?
Yes.
Yeah, so the subject matter is the person receiving or paying.
Yeah.
So in this case, you should protect yourself. We are hedging. Hedging is protecting yourself against the fluctuation in the exchange rates. So you must enter into a contract whereby you should not lose. So remember the first question. This person was a Kenyan, but he had been given what? Tanzania. Yeah. So he's the one to protect himself. This case, there's someone in the US is supposed to be paid because you have done your part. So we may supply goods, I'm receive goods. So now we look at it from that angle. Yeah, who is the subject matter?
It's the person making payment.
Not person making payment. Because if you go to because you are the one who has manufactured goods, the person who has manufactured the goods should be the one to determine the price. So you know the cost you incurred in making the product. You should be the one to protect yourself. Because this other person is simply buying. So he may not be aware of the trust because you should look at the exchange rate in your home currency. So always ensure when it comes to hedging, we look at the subject matter. So who can be exposed to a risk? The person who made the product, because we don't know the cost incurred in raw material. Then payment is being done after or being received after 3 months or 6 months. So during that time, changes could have happened in terms of the product. So we look at the person with the product at hand. Let us check now the currency option. Let us now see what happens in the currency option. So this time around, when we are looking at the currency, we look at the currency the way it has been denominated in the foreign currency. So for this one, he's supposed to pay. He's supposed to pay. So when he is paying, the currency is denominated in the foreign currency. So how can he also protect himself about that? So that under this, you note that it involves hedging the payment, denominated in the foreign currency, hedging the payment denominated in the foreign currency, denominated in the foreign currency, denominated in the foreign currency, denominated in the foreign currency. Therefore, the firm will sell the call option. Therefore, the firm will sell the call option that will give the right, but will give the right and not obligation. That will give the right and not obligation. That will give the right and not the obligation to buy the US dollars, to buy the US dollars, to buy the US dollars, to buy the US dollars after 6 months, after 6 months, after 6 months, either at the exercise price, either at the exercise price, either at the exercise price or the market rate, or the market rate, or the market rate, depending on which is the lower value, depending on which is the lower value, depending on which is the lower value, which is the lower value, which is the lower value. So we are comparing the exercise price and the call option. So we pick the one which is lower. We pick the one which is lower. So obvious, it will be the exercise price. Obvious, it is going to be the exercise price, where they gave you 1.4. So we use that one to get the exchange rate. So in that currency option, the exchange rate, we are picking the lower from what we have done, Roman letter 1, we picked the lower. Roman letter 2, we also picked the lower. So 1 pound. 1 pound is equivalent to 1.40 US dollars. US dollars like that. And we know there are how many US dollars? There are 365,000 US dollars. So convert that into the pounds. Convert that into the pounds. So now after you have done that, we are comparing the forward market, the money market, and also the currency option. Where is he paying less? Because now we are looking at a payment. So which one will we select? The currency option. Yeah, so the advice will be that select the currency option. Select the currency option. Select the currency option since it is where he will pay less. Since it is where he will pay less. Since it is where he will pay less. So I want us to do one more other question on that. The one for November 2018. We check the one for November 2018. Yeah, yes.
So my question is, there is this statement here. The foreign currency option prices, the bracket sells per sterling pound for a contract size for 15,000 pounds and as follows. You don't use it. You don't use the 15,000.
That is the contract size. The contract for a contract size of. So if the question could have asked you to determine the number of the contracts, is now when you use it. Yeah. So if they ask you to get the number of the contracts, so you have been given those pounds. So those pounds, after you had converted the 365,000 at the spot rate into the pounds, now you can divide by the 15,000 pounds so that you get the number of the orders or the order size. So that was meant to assist you to get the order size, the number of the orders. But now the question did not ask you the number of the orders, so we just leave it. We cannot be able to use it. So let us go to November 2018. November 2018. November 2018. There is a question number. Question 3, part B. Question number 3, part B. We check through question number 3, part B. November 2018. November 2018. November 2018. There is a question number 3, part B. November 2018. Question number 3, part B. So that question 3, part B, they have given you information about Chigiri Investment Limited, a company based in Kenya. A company based in Kenya. The company exported goods on credit to a firm in the US. So this time is they want to be paid because he exported. When you export goods, you are supposed to be paid. So in the US, so the company expects to receive the US dollars of 800,000 in a 1 year's time. In a 1 year's time. So the current spot exchange rate is $1 against 60 Kenyan shillings. That's now the spot rate. So this time around, there is no information of determining the buying and this, because they are just given you one. So they have only given, so there is no trouble of going to the direct or indirect in order to identify the buying or the selling price. So this one, it is just direct. So they gave you, however, Chigiri Investment Limited created a probability distribution for the forward spot rate. For the forward spot rate in 1 year as follows. So they gave you the probabilities and the forward spot rate. So additional information, 1 year put option, 1 year put option on the US dollar are available for an exercise price of 63 and a premium of 4 per US dollar. So note number 2, 1 year call option are available for the US with an exercise price of 60 and a premium of 3. So the future spot rate is estimated at a year's time of 6. That's now the future spot rate. Then note number 4, the following are the money market annual rates. The following are the money market annual rates. So they have given you Kenya and US, the annual rate and the in both countries. So required, determine whether forward market, money market hedge or the currency option hedge will be the most appropriate hedging strategy for the company. And Roma letter 2, advise a prospective investor the most appropriate hedging strategy if no hedging takes place. So no hedging is also another strategy. No hedging is also another strategy of hedging against the risk, of hedging against the risk. So let us start with forward market. So forward market is very straightforward. Yeah, like now for this one, they have not given us 2 exchange rates to determine the buying or the selling. So it is normally direct and not. So let us now go to the forward market. We start off with the forward market. We start off with the forward market. So we calculate the exchange rate. We compute the exchange. It was subject to some probabilities. It was subject to some probability. So you take each, multiply by the probability, and add them together. You can see the first one is 61. The 61 has a probability of which figure? 0.2. Then we add the second one. The second one is 63. The probability is 0.5. The last one is which figure? 67. The probability is given as 0.3. So we get the value for that. Get the value for that. We come up with a value for that. So what value is it? 63.8. 63.8. So now the exchange rate is that 1 + 63.8. 1 + 63.8. 1 + 63.8. 1 + 63.8. 1 + 63.8. 1 + 63.8. 1 + 63.8. 1 + 63.8. 1 + 63.8. 1 + 63.8. 1 + 63.8. 1 + 63.8. 1 + 63.8. 1 + 63.8. 1 + 63.8. 1 + 63.8. 1 + 63.8. 1 + 63.8. 1 + 63.8. 1 + 63.8. 1 + 63.8. 1 + 63.8. 1 + 63.8. 1 + 63.8. 1 + 63.8. 1 + 63.8. 1 + 63.8. 1 + 63.8. 1 + 63.8. 1 + 63.8. 1 + 63.8. 1 + 63.8. 1 + 63.8. 1 + 63.8. 1 + 63.8. 1 + 63.8. 1 + 63.8. 1 + 63.8. 1 US dollar. One US dollar will be equivalent to 63.8 Kenyan. So the exchange rate is that 1 US dollar is equivalent to 63.8 Kenyan shillings. So how many US dollars were to be paid in the first paragraph? You can see there 800,000. So 800,000 US dollars. So when you convert into Kenyan shillings, how much did he pay in that forward market? How much did he pay in that forward market? How much did he pay in that forward market? 51 millions, 040,000. So that is now in the forward market. That's now in the forward market. Let us now go to the money market. Let us now go to the money market. For the forward market is always direct. You just get that forward exchange rate, then you convert. But the money market is where we have 3 steps. We now go to the money market. So for the money market first, so this time there is no indirect or direct quote. So there is no identifying the buying or the selling. So we just now follow the order. So the first step, because he has a current watch asset to receive. You see, he's supposed to receive 800,000. Yeah, so instead of waiting for the US customer to pay him, you will go to US. You use that customer to borrow. So the first step is to borrow, because he's the one to receive the 800,000. So he has a current asset. So he starts by creating a current liability by borrowing. So the first step under the money market will be now amount to be borrowed. You want to know amounts to be borrowed in the US. Amount to be borrowed in the US. So our first step will be amount to be borrowed. Amount to be borrowed. So amount to be borrowed is the same as the present value. It is equal to the future value 1 plus R. So that future value is 800,000 US dollars. So what is the borrowing rate in the US? It is 12%. Then this money was to be received after how long? A year. So that one we shall not convert. We use directly the way it is. So they are given in annual rates. So that annual borrowing rate in the US, it is what percent? 12. So it is 1 plus 0.12. So that is now the amount to be borrowed. That is now the amount to be borrowed in the US. That is now the amount to be borrowed in the US. So that is our step number 1. We now go to the step number 2. Step number 2 is that convert the amount. So the step number 2 is that convert the amount into the Kenyan shillings at the spot rate. Convert the amount into Kenyan shillings at the spot rate. Convert the amount into Kenyan shillings at the spot rate. So this time there is only one spot rate, isn't it? There is no one for buying or selling. So it is only one which is given up there. You can see the current exchange spot rate. 1 US dollar is equivalent to 60 Kenyan shillings. So we just convert it right away from there. So 1 US US dollar. It's equivalent to 60 Kenyan shillings. So this one has given you how much US dollars?
740.
Sorry? 740.
14.
286.
114, number 714.
714.
714.
286.
286 US dollars.
Yeah.
So when you convert into the Kenyan shillings, how much would be that figure?
42 million.
You get 42 millions.
857. 160.
Then now we got the step number 3. So step 3 is that the amount is deposited in the Kenyan bank. The amount is deposited in the Kenyan bank. So what are the deposits in Kenya? The interest rate for the deposit in Kenya is what figure?
9%.
So it is deposited in the Kenyan bank, earning interest of 9% per annum. Earning interest. It is deposited in the Kenyan bank, earning interest at a rate of 9% per annum. 9% per annum. So get now the future value of that money after 1 year in Kenya. So we get the future value. We get the future value with the present value 1 plus R. The present value in the brackets of 1 plus R. So umepata ngapi? This 42, 857, then 160. So we have said the interest rate is what percent? 9%. So 9% the same as 0.09. Like that. 0.09. So that is now the future value for that money. When it comes to the money market, that is now when it comes in the money market. So that is now option 2, the money market. So let us also check now the currency option. They have also indicated there the currency option. They have also indicated there the currency option. So for the currency option, we can, so the other one was a payment. You remember the question we did? Yeah. But this one's a receipt. Yeah. So this one, we write something brief on it, that it involves hedging the amount to be received. It involves hedging the amount to be received, denominated in the foreign currency, denominated in the foreign currency, denominated in the foreign currency, denominated in the foreign currency. Therefore, the investor will buy a put option. Therefore, the investor will buy a put option, which shall give him the right, but not an obligation, which will give him the right, but not an obligation, to sell the US dollars after 1 year, to sell the US dollars after 1 year, to sell the US dollars after 1 year at the exercise price, or the market rate, the exercise price or the market rate, depending on which is higher value, depending on which is the higher value, depending on which is the higher value, depending on which is the higher value. So we want to compare the exercise price and the market rate. The market rate is the future spot rate. The market rate for that is the future spot rate. So for the exercise price, we start with the one for the exercise price. The exercise price for the put options, we have specified that. It is our put option. So go to the note number 1. Are you able to see note 1?
Yeah.
Under the put option. So the exercise price, the other question, it was the all option. Was to pay. But here it is to receive. Why? That's why it is a put option. That is why it is a put option. So what you need to do for the exercise price, for the exercise price, we have seen that $1 it is equivalent to 63 Kenyan shillings. That is the exchange rate for the exercise price. That is the exchange rate for the exercise price. We also compare the one for the market price. Because we have said we pick the one which is higher. So the market price. So the market price is the same as the future spot rate. The market price there is the same as the future spot rate. It's the same as our future spot rate. So it is given to you in the note number 3. You can see note 3. What is there in the note number 3 as the future spot rate? $1 is equivalent to 62 Kenyan shillings. So we pick the higher. Therefore, we use the exercise price. So we are supposed to pick the higher, and therefore we use what? The exercise price. And therefore now we use the exercise price. So if we use the exercise price, want now to know the amount of price. When we use the exercise price, we are saying that $1, it is equivalent to, so $1, it is equivalent to 800, is equivalent to 63 Kenyan shillings. But there were how many US dollars? 800,000 US dollars. So when you convert it into the Kenyan shillings, how much will be that figure? When you convert it into the Kenyan shillings, how much will be that value? Yeah, so there was a premium on that option. We normally get also the premium, then we subtract it from the figure. There was a premium on it. You see under that note number 1, after they had given you 63 and a premium of how much? 4 per US dollar. So let us also get the total premium. We shall subtract the total premium from that amount to see how much it is. So we also compute the premium. So the premium is that $1. It is equivalent to how much Kenyan shillings in form of the premium? It is equivalent to 4 Kenyan shillings. 4 Kenyan shillings. But we know it was 800,000 US dollars. So how much premium was paid in terms of the Kenyan shillings in relation to that? Yeah, so now we get the total amount to be received. From there, now you get the total amount to be received. You now get the total amount. Total amount to be received. So how much did we get up there? It was 54. It was 50. 400,000. And now you subtract the premium is 3.2 million. The premium is 3.2 million. So we can now compare the three of them. Where are you receiving more? Where are you receiving more? Forward market, money market, or the currency option? The forward is where you are receiving more. Yes. Yeah, so now the advice would be that select the forward market. Select the forward market. Select the forward market since it is where the investor will receive more. Since it is where the investor will receive more. It's where the investor will receive more. That's now for the currency option. Then finally, we go to the Roman letter 2. Let us also check what is meant to be the Roman letter 2. So for the Roman letter 2, they were asking that advise the prospective investor on the most appropriate hedging strategy if no hedging takes place. If no hedging takes place. So let us comment if no hedging takes place. If no hedging takes place. So we comment that if there is no hedging, comma, the exchange rate is normally the future spot rate. The exchange rate is normally the future spot rate. If there is no hedging, the exchange rate is the future spot rate. So we have been given the future spot rate. So how much will it be for when there is no hedging? So when there is no hedging, we always use the future spot rate. So that future spot rate, $1 US. It is equivalent to how much Kenyan shillings? 62. It is 62. Yeah. 62 Kenyan shillings. But there was 800,000. So how much would it be? How much would it be? So we are comparing with the method we selected in Roman letter 1 against this one. Because already we had selected the forward market. So now when you compare with the no hedging, where I see receiving more? It is still the forward. Yeah, so now we advise them that we advise them that we compare this method with the forward market. We compare this method with the forward market selected in Roman letter 1. We compare this method with the forward market selected in Roman letter 1. Selected in Roman letter 1. Therefore, the investor will still select the forward market. Therefore, the investor will still select the forward market. We will still select the forward market. We still select the forward market. So that is now on that question. So I don't want to teach you so many things. What I wanted is you to get a concept for the exchange rate. Because we expect them this time around to give you that kind of a question. Last time, it was the call of the Blackard scores. Yeah, there was no question last time on the exchange, but the other sitting, it was there. For December sitting, it was there. The one we have done. Yeah, so last time it was the call, it was the Black Scots option. So we expect them now to come back to that element for the exchange. Yeah, but even if they go back to the call option or put options, you already know them. Yeah, but I wanted you to have some general knowledge about the exchange so that when you get a question, because on average, it is likely to be 10 marks. On average, it is likely to be 10 marks. When you compare the money market, the forward market, and the currency option. So that would be a favorable option if they give you those 10 marks and you write something about them. Not exactly the right answer, but what we have done, so the person will know the concept. They know when you go to the forward market, what you can do about it. And assuming they have not brought in the complication of the direct or indirect, that should be a straightforward part. We just get that forward rate, then exchange to know how much. The same case for the money market, the same case for the currency option. That is the key issue I wanted you to have knowledge on, because now if you go through those three questions, and then when you meet a similar question in the exam, even if you are not getting the correct answers, but the concept is that you are likely to get at least 60% of those marks, because obviously you know how to express them and how to exchange them at that order. Then also, I will ask you to read those method of hedging the exchange rate, the wording of the use of the forward market, read it, how to use the future contract, how also to use the money market hedge. Then now the third one, the fourth one, you have seen the currency option. You can see the currency option. Even the call or put option, they also apply when you are hedging. So read them in terms of the theory part. Then I would also ask you to read what we have just written about purchasing power parity, what we have written about the interest rate parity, and also what we have written as the international Fisher effect. Just get some general knowledge about them. They will be able to give you advantage on that level. So general concept about your paper. I know your paper, there are 5 questions. But currently, the way they are setting their question, if you look at the last sitting paper, that paper is so sketchy. It is just a skeleton of what we have covered. A very small skeleton of what we have covered. And what they did currently, because they look at what is happening in the market. They normally look at what is happening in the market. So in the market, businesses, we do a lot of restructuring. Even at your place of work, there is a lot of restructuring. Changing the management team, that is all about restructuring. Opening branches is about restructuring. So they test restructuring every sitting. So the first thing you should be interested in is that restructuring and reorganization. Restructuring and reorganization, they test it every sitting because that is currently what happens in most of the organization. We should do some restructuring, either promoting people, it is all about restructuring. Either opening branches, it is all about what? Restructuring. So there were 3 items there under the restructuring. There were 3 items there under restructuring. One of them was the WSEC. Was about how to calculate the WSEC. The other item was basically the share price. The share. How to calculate the share price? We had done several questions on that. The other item is the growth rate. The other item was the growth rate. Those are the three impacts they will ask you to come up. Last sitting, it was basically the WSEC. Remember question 1 for the last sitting, part B. It was WSEC. The other question we did question 3, part D. It was still WSEC, and it was all restructuring and reorganization. So in that part, also they are interested only in 3 items. One of the items is the beta factor of equity for the delivered, which is supposed to be given by the beta factor of equity for the undelivered 1 plus D over E. Then, so this part was used in 3 questions. This item was used in 3 questions. The last sitting. Remember adjusted NPV. We used this model under the adjusted NPV. That question 1, part A for the last sitting, they used this. Even part B of the same question, they used this. Then that question 3, part D, they still used this model. So this is hammered model. That person will always come out with that model. So get to know how to use it. The other item that they used is this one here, KEL, the risk-free rate as expected return of the market minus the risk-free rate, beta factor of equity for the delivered. It is starting from now that. But this one is CAPM. This one is basically CAPM. Then finally, you are to get your WSEC, the weight of equity KEL, the weight of the debt KD, like that. So an examiner will always come up with this. They will test you the beta factor, they will test you cost of equity for the delivered firm, they will test you the WSEC. So this item last sitting, it was to give you 18 marks, the WSEC. So you can see question 1, part B, it was WSEC. The one for the last sitting. Question 1, part B, it was WSEC when the proportions were given this. You can see that question 1, part B. Yeah, it was WSEC. It was supposed to give you how many marks? Yeah, it was supposed to give you 8, isn't it? Then the other question that we did, the one that we did, the other question was question 4, part D. The question 4, part D, it was still the WSEC. So they simply come up with the structure, but all that they are asking you are these 3 items. Beta factor of equity for the delivered, cost of equity for the delivered, so that you get what? WSEC. That's now their major concern under restructuring and reorganization. Then apart from that, you read the theory part, the small theory part under the terms of restructuring and reorganization. That is now one of the key items. The second area I want you to be conversant with is the mergers and acquisition. So this one is the first one. You must go through them before you go for your exam. Restructuring, make sure that you go through it the way we have done in class before you go for the exam. The second one is mergers and acquisition. Mergers and acquisition, it is also a common item in the market. It is also a common item in the market. So for the mergers and acquisition, also it has only 3 items they test you for the mergers and acquisition. So those 3 items, the first one is the earning per share. Remember, after merger or before merger earning per share, you look at that. The other item is the price earning ratio. The other item is the price earning ratio. The other item is simply market price per share. So go through the handout and go through the questions. We did like 4 questions on that. They normally ask you market price per share after the merger, after they have said that the price earning ratio remained constant. Remember, we did something about non-diluting offer price. So go through them. They must come up with that question. So that's now the second topic that you should be well conversant with before you go for that exam. Not that you are mostly well prepared, but just have general knowledge in that. Make sure that you go through them before you go to the exam. Then the other part, they have actually been going through the same concept. I would like you also to go to the risk analysis. The risk analysis in the capital budget. The risk analysis in the capital budgeting. There are several techniques there. There is the decision tree diagram. There is simulation. There is sensitivity analysis. This time we are hopefully that they are likely to test you on the sensitivity analysis. The last time they tested was way back 2019. Is it 2019 or 2018? That's the last time they tested a question on the sensitivity analysis. So we expect them around to ask you something on that. We expect them to come up with something on that level. So make sure that you go through it. There is the simulation, there is the decision tree diagram, and now the sensitivity. There are other small ones, like we did something about utility theory and the rest. But the key ones are normally 3: simulation, decision tree, and sensitivity. So make sure you have some general knowledge about those ones. Make sure that you have some general knowledge about those ones. Then the other item is the capital structure. The other area is the capital structure. The capital structure. So capital structure, I know it is wide, but have some general knowledge on it. You remember the breakpoint? How to calculate the weighted marginal cost of capital at the breakpoint. There was a question we did, is it 2021? Yeah. So they tested that, but finally narrowed down to Modigliani and Miller. Those theories, the ones for the Modigliani and Miller. So for a long time, they have not tested with the personal taxes. So remember, there was some personal taxes. Yeah. For a long time, they have not tested anything on M&M on the personal and corporate tax. So try and see it on that level, because recently they tested the one for the bankruptcy and the HS cost twice, but they have not tested on them. They have also tested on the dividend policy. Remember MM and dividend policy. Yeah, but they have not tested for some times about the personal and the corporate tax, but just have some general knowledge on that capital structure theories. Then there is the one for the portfolio theory and the CAPM. But portfolio theory and the CAPM, recently they have been being absorbed in these other topics. So have the general knowledge of that, portfolio theory and CAPM. But those ones that we have listed are now the key ones. We have listed how many? 4. Yeah, so those 4 will be the backbone of your paper. It must carry at least 75%, those 4. They must carry at least 75%. Then now you just go through those long-term financing decisions. You remember the adjusted NPV, leases, bond refunding or refinancing. Those ones you just go through them in general, just in case, because oftenly they don't test them quite frequently, but you just go through them. So that is now what we should be able to have the general concept. Then finally, I will say that that paper has theory notes, theory parts. Don't leave a theory question hanging. Just write some stories. Unajua kuandika stories. Yeah. All of you have general knowledge in management. So any theory question that they test, kindly don't leave it hanging. Just write some short notes about it. When things on the computation are not right from the examiner's point of view, they normally make adjustments. If question 1 had A and B, and A was theory with 6 marks, then computation is 14. They will reverse them during the exam, during the marking. They may give 14 to the theory and they give 6 to computation. That is when everyone else has done poorly on that calculation, so that they come up with a normal curve. Yeah, they should have a normal curve. They must get a given proportion of people to do it, to pass, even if the exam is complicated. So the problem will come in now if you have not written anything. So we will give you the marks from where you have not written anything. So if you have not written, you will definitely be given a 0. So make sure you write something on it. And that will now come in when you budget your time. Spend at least 40 minutes on a question. If you have already spent 40 minutes and you have not finished, leave it, go to the next. Because they will award marks for all the 5 questions. Here you are only looking for 20 in one question. But when you go to the next question and you write something which is reasonable, they will also give you some marks on the same. And also on the other one, they will also give you some. So cumulatively, they may add up to a standard pass mark. So make sure you attempt all the 5 questions and you do all the theory questions. Just write some stories about the general knowledge of what they have asked. It will give you some value. Then another challenge we normally face is the way we arrange our work. So there are 5 questions. If you have chosen to start with question 1 and it has A, B, and C, make sure you leave enough space for A, B, and C as the first question. Don't write A on the first page. Then after answering 3 questions, you go to B. Combining those or locating them is a problem. You will find someone says, I did very well, but now it has come the reverse. It is according to the way you arrange your work. This person is looking for money. So why are you giving him problems of getting his quick money? Because you have answered Roman letter 1 on page 1. Then you kind of page 14 to answer part Roman letter 2. So you combine Roman letter 1 and 2 becomes a problem. You can even forget your marks because it's combined. I know they will be checking, but now correlating the 2 also has an issue. Then also your presentation. You see your presentation. That day, make sure you write a good handwriting. It is appealing to the marker. There is psychology issues. Someone can be in a bad mood. All of us have expressed that. So if someone is in a bad mood and is getting something, is creating another bad mood for you. Because he's looking for money. He's looking for money. So don't complicate it. So have it a very presentable. Like when once you see it, the first line, he conclude even line 3, 4, and 5 are correct. Then he's likely to give you more marks. So the way you present it will also be a better way of making you pass. Just that if you have started with question 1, answer it. If there is part C you have not remembered, leave the space there. If you remember, but I come back and write it there. So that person will find it very easy. And then also when he's marking, because they have said that these people should have at least 50% of them passing. So when they are moderating it, it becomes easier. We are now on question 1, umepata 2 marks. Question 3, umepata. So part A, umepata 3 marks. Part B, umepata 1 mark. So they are able to correlate. They say we add how many marks on each one of them. So they can add maybe 4 on A and 4 on, so that you get 10. So it becomes easier that way. So what you do, arrange your work in a presentable way so that it makes good picture on the marker. Then another thing that has been affecting students, zile wanasema leakage. If it comes on your way, you see, angalia. They are suspending people for 3 years. Yeah. So if you see it, wasilete a solution to me, just do it on your own. Now, if you see that leakage, don't use the solution provided. for the leakage, because someone giving a leakage ataenda ahead awape answer. Wewe isome ielewe and see how to answer on your own. Even if I give you the solution, also do it in a different way, because that solution, if I give you to you today, all of you will cram it. So when they will be marking, they look at the similarities. Where wamefanya the same. Then finally they look from where you are center, where you went to school to. So if all of you have done the same thing and you came from this school, obviously know it. So CASNEP has come up with a way of tracing that. After they have marked, now they start looking at the similarities of the answers. That's how they are doing it. And when you are found, they give you a suspension of 3 years. It is too costly for you as us. When you get the leakage, yes, sometimes they are there. Don't do the same way other people are doing it. Look at it if it is there, because it is obvious it may be there. Look at it, but if they give you answers, don't use those answers they have given them out. Just look at them, then do it your own way. I know the final answer could be the same, but the way you have done, the way he has done, they look a bit different. So that's now the best way, just in case it comes on your way. But if it comes to the class, I know it was done, the other sitting, this one. Answer was given out. We have a copy, I compare the next one, I copy the next one. So the entire class got the same marks. That exam center, the entire squad got the same marks. So it was automatic. All of them were disqualified. But most of them went there not expecting to get it. But during the exam time, someone gives you a paper to copy. So don't look at it. Just ignore what happens there. So that is all that I will be able to say. It has been a long journey, isn't it? But now it has come to an end. So it is now time for you to sit down and go and write what is right for that exam. Your exam must have a normal distribution. You people, you have been in class. You are better than those who have not been in class. So just go through what we have done and see how it will assist you on that area. So in case you have any question, me, I will be around. You are free to ask. But for now, I wish you success in your exams. Yeah. So online, we stop there. So and then